As a kid, I never really noticed race and culture. I honestly thought we all just went home and did the same thing. As I grew up, I realized that race and culture does play a big part of who you are. Being from a strong Mexican bloodline, I didn't have much exposure to other cultures. This then made me question, what is it like being more than one race? What is it like to be influenced by two different cultures? What is it like to be biracial? I interviewed 4 different people from Texas State University and asked them about their experiences.
My name is Alex Carter. I'm 25 and I'm a senior at Texas State University.
Hi, my name is Lauren Garza and I am a Texas State graduate.
Hello, my name is Paulina Rugerberg and I am 23 years old. I am about to graduate from Texas State as a psychologist.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Ling-Dachuk. I'm an assistant professor of studio art here in ceramics at Texas State.
I am mixed with Mexican and Korean.
Hispanic and white.
German and Mexican.
I am Chinese on my mother's side, and my father's side is like Russian, Polish, Irish.
Most people just automatically assume I'm Asian. Half the time they don't even guess Korean. They'll say like Chinese, Japanese, Filipino. They kind of make their way around every Asian country besides before they get to Korea.
People usually think that I am white.
They know I'm something that's not quite white, but can't quite place me in a box. And usually after a few questions, that's when they go, oh, okay, I could tell you are something Asian.
What I like about being biracial is all the great food I get to eat, honestly. I get Mexican food, I get Korean food, and then growing up in Texas, I get like all Southern cooking. So definitely all the good food.
If you want to feel like an American on 4th of July, you kind of can, but also if you want to celebrate the Mexican Independence Day, like you can, and it feels cool.
Now as an adult, I appreciate in some ways the struggles because it's made me who I am. It's made me probably a lot stronger and tougher, but also I think that comes with being 40 and like really being unapologetic about my identity.
The struggle with being biracial is you just never fit into one group. Like being mixed, I can't go hang out with just like solely Mexican people because they'll never see me as like a Mexican person. And then when I hang around like other Korean people too, they don't see me as like a Korean person.
I definitely, that comes in waves. Younger, the struggles were I didn't see people that looked like me on TV, or I didn't see people talking about being biracial, and I probably didn't even call myself biracial till now, because we never talked about it in my household. We were just people.
Probably just getting judgment that I'm not one race, I'm not white, I'm not Hispanic, that I'm mixed with both of them.
For me, and part of my artwork and my practice and my how I live my life is to speak out about those things, but when I do, I'm often told I'm not Chinese enough to speak out about those things, which is that is hurtful and hard because it's also denying a huge part of who I am.
When it's an important document, it's hard to find exactly what your race is. Sometimes it doesn't give you the option to put white and Hispanic or Latino. They automatically assume that if you're white, you cannot be Hispanic or Latino.
It's trying to educate people and that how huge the Asian diaspora is and how very nuanced and different we look within like one of the largest continents in the world.
The questions I get all the time are, where are you from? Like, what's going on with this? What's happening here? So that's definitely one. And then when I tell people, oh, like I'm Latina and I'm Asian, and of course they want to know like what exactly.
What are you?
They hear like a German last name and they're like, oh, what are you?
What was the culture shock like in your life? And I still don't understand that question.
They usually ask me like what I'm mixed with.
Do you speak Chinese?
Are you really from Mexico? Like, you don't even look brown,
All questions for them to credit or discredit my identity. They need these qualifiers.
I think what people mistakenly assume is that I identify with one race over the other. Like, like I said, I'm more Asian passing than I am Mexican passing. So a lot of times people would just be like, oh, I'm sure you only identify as Korean, but I'm proud to be biracial. So it's like I claim both. I claim being Mexican, I claim being Korean. But I feel like people try to stick you into that box. They're like, oh, you're Asian. Like, you should just say that you're Asian. But I'm not, so why would I say that?
People mistakenly assume that I speak Spanish.
I don't speak Spanish because I look a certain way, and when I do, they're very surprised. They're like, oh, you didn't even look like you speak Spanish.
It's that going back to like what you must have had like huge culture clashes in your home, and I don't even know if I knew what that meant or what those words are, because we grew up with differences, but I think those differences are translatable in everyone's family.
The question, what are you? The way I feel about it is just confusing. Like, by now, I am just used to it and I choose to not take it personally, but I mean, what does it look like I am? Like, like, that's just a silly question to ask somebody.
I feel like I don't really think too much into it because I mean I can see how it's a weird question. I'm Hispanic, I'm white, I'm a girl. I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's just a very plain question.
Personally, it's just lazy. It's a lazy question. Like, there's a million other ways you can ask me, like, about my background.
I used to hate it because I think I didn't have the vocabulary or context to answer it in the way I would answer it now.
It's old, really old question, because I hear it, I'm telling you, I probably heard it today, like at some point, honestly.
And really, it's like we're all humans. And so I find like when I ask what are you to other people where you kind of recognize they're biracial, you kind of do the like gentle nod and you're like, okay, I understand, we understand each other. I feel like what are you is like in my groups, I love asking that because we have that safety and free space to be able to have that conversation. It's when it comes from people as like a judgment, maybe not out of curiosity.
I do sometimes feel very pressured about picking one race over the other. A lot of times I feel pressured to pick that I'm white because sadly a lot of times comes with a lot more benefits.
Sobre todo porque ella tuvo la suerte desde que nació de tener la doble nacionalidad. Le ayudó mucho obviamente pues todo, desde el color de su piel, todo le ha beneficiado más que batallar, no ha tenido ningún problema.
I do get that all the time, to just claim one race over the other. Because like I said, I am more Asian passing than I am Hispanic passing. And so when I tell people I'm Mexican, I feel like they don't believe me, or they just shrug it off completely. And they're like, oh, but what else is in there? And they're just like waiting for me to say like Korean. And they're like, oh, I knew it. Like, I got it.
Probably Hispanic only because my last name is Garza and it is Hispanic and I want to represent.
It's a mix of the two. It's like, I am so proud of my identity because I feel like I'm very unique being Mexican and Korean. I do meet other people who are Hispanic and Asian mixed too, but it's a very rare mix to come across. But it is hard to find that area where you want to fit in. Like we talked about earlier too, it's like I can't just go hang out with the Mexicans because I'm just that Asian girl, and then I can't go hang out with the Asian people because I'm that mixed girl, like I'm not full Asian, like that. So it's just hard to be accepted by either group because I think there's a lot of stigma of being 100% like one race.
The biggest cultural habit would be
Probably the food that I make, the family values, the holidays.
I love to cook, so I really hold on to making Mexican food, making Korean food. And then something too that I feel like I've held on from like my Korean side specifically is when I was 1, there's like a tradition to like, basically you set out like a bowl of rice, a pencil, a thread, and money. And like at 1 year old, your child pretty much chooses their destiny on like what they're gonna be in life. And for me at that time when I was 1, I chose the pencil, which meant that I was gonna be like academically successful and just grow up to be smart. And so I think when I have children, I kind of want to do that for them too and carry on the tradition.
So I would say my work has always been about identity, race, and gender. And that really came about when I was in undergrad and then grad school. Was I knew I wanted to be an artist, and I knew I didn't want to make art for art's sake. Like I think there's validity in making like really beautiful objects and paintings, and but I knew I wanted to make art that had a message. And when I was learning about artists, I didn't see many artists that shared my story or their work was reflective in our experiences of being biracial.
Estoy muy orgullosa de ser biracial. I really like being biracial.